Hello everyone, we're going to get started now. Hopefully you've had a chance to have coffee, tea, you've got your sticker on the map on the wall, you've signed in, and if you are joining us on Facebook, welcome as well. We've got Emma on that, so at the end we'll have questions, but you can certainly ask them as we go online, but in the room, if you can hold your questions to the very end, we'll have time for those. The washrooms are just outside the door, so as you came in through the children's room, you can go back out that same way. The washrooms are on your right-hand side. And I'll be around, or anyone, I should say, in these lovely t-shirts can help you if you need additional help. And otherwise, Sarah and Mark are going to take over for the presentation. Enjoy.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, I think so. All right. Thank you to everybody to come in. This is the CBS Community Garden Public Consultation meeting. So pretty much what our goal today is, will be, I should say, is to talk about the Gateway Garden, which was a garden that we created, the committee, the CBS Community Garden Committee, created up on Graham Mifflin Drive. So we'll talk about what we did this past year, and then we'll talk about the plans for the future at Gateway. We'll quickly talk about our recent public interest survey that we're hoping some of you may have filled out, and how you can, and then we'll talk about what makes a community garden. They're the second point, and how you can create them in your neighborhood. Then we'll move on to question and discussion section, and we'll try to relate some info from the map that we all put a sticker on that when we came in, and maybe look for some possible areas for neighborhood gardens near you. So as you can see in the photo there, this was a sunflower that we grew up at Gateway. On the left, on the top right, is a kohlrabi, still in the ground there, and underneath was a dill and radish salad that was prepared by one of the members of the committee.
All right, and so what you're seeing next might not look familiar to many people. However, this was Gateway Garden originally. Oh, by the way, I'm Sarah. I guess you forgot to do that. This is Mark. I'm Sarah.
We're both on the committee.
But yeah, this used to be Gateway Garden. And so just to give a quick history, some of you may have been at the first town hall meeting, which we had in 2019. And so we just brought people together to set out to see who was interested in creating a community garden and possibilities of where to put it. And there were a lot of ideas tossed around. Ultimately, in order to create a space in 2019 that people could use, this was the site selected. So we wanted to create a space that could be used by the community as a hub for workshops, educational events, things like that, somewhere that was visible, accessible, had lots of room for growth. And so we decided on Gateway. It's big and it's windy, but it has a gorgeous view, and it's right next to the arena, so there's a warm room and there's a washroom up there, and you know, that's totally important. And so this photo is of the area just before we started. So with the support of the town and a few local sponsors, we had beds up and there were plants in the ground 6 weeks after the original meeting and 2 weeks after this photo was taken.
Looks like a
Move to the next.
All right, so this photo might look a little bit different. So this photo was actually from about midsummer up at Gateway. So you can see the shed there on the left-hand side, a sign with a list of our sponsors, and all the current beds. We're located, as I said, in Kelligrews, up behind the CBS Arena in the Gateway development, and conveniently on the Grand Concourse Trail. So at the arena we have lots of parking. and it's just a short walk down that trail into the garden.
All right, and so in our first year, we managed to accomplish a lot. We have 17 raised beds. We have 2 accessible beds. You can see them in the top picture. They're the ones that are up on the legs there. So they can be used for wheelchair or sitting gardeners, or anybody who has accessibility issues and needs to take breaks from time to time. They can still just sit and use those. We also managed to accomplish a stone herb spiral, which is obviously the one made of stones. And, you know, there's no shortage of those up at the garden, or anywhere in Newfoundland for that matter. And all of everything we accomplished combined was about 200 wheelbarrow loads of soil. So soil is also very important to us, and so that's why at Gateway Garden we grow organically, and we encourage everyone else to do the same.
So that means that we don't use synthetic sprays or fertilizers, and as you can see there, we'd rather pick off caterpillars by hand, even if it takes all night sometimes. We also use companion planting and crop rotation as much as possible to help deter pest insects. So pretty much planting beneficial plants together that might help deter pest insects, or crop rotation is when you put different vegetables in the same ground over different years to again try to avoid those pest insects. So we have a bin set up that we use for comfrey tea, which is a great liquid organic fertilizer, and we've had good results with bat guano, worm castings, and Shell-X seafood compost, which is a local seafood compost company from Twillingate. So you can see on the right us adding fresh capelin cut by the garden members to the beds to break down and add nutrients to the soil. Some other ways that we create healthy organic soil is through compost and fire ash. So, as you can see here in the top left, we have a 3-bin compost system that is full of pumpkins and leaves currently, thanks to a couple of events last year. And you can see our fire pit. So, as I mentioned earlier, the ash from the fire pit is a great source of carbon and helps raise pH of the soil. The garden is also fitted with water hookup and hoses and watering cans, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a shed with a lot of tools and a wheelbarrow. Then, as you can see, we have some pretty colorful picnic tables there that I think every garden needs somewhere to take a break every now and again, certainly.
And so this is what we look like. Here's our little leafy logo, Bright Garden, Green Future, a play on the town's motto, of course. And we're on Facebook, obviously Facebook Live right now, and we also, you can contact us or follow us through Instagram, as well as we have an email list for those of you who aren't on social media, totally understandable. And so you can look for the links. We have links in the handouts provided, and of course anybody who's following us on Facebook Live, you can find any of that in the video descriptions on how to contact us. And so in 2019, Gateway was a communal garden that met twice a week during the summer, and members show up the days they're able to share in the work and in the harvest. And this bottom picture is just a little layout of, like, a little sketch of what we currently look like with the beds that we do have right now. And so here are a few of our members sharing in the workload and the harvest. I think that picture is from the very first night, actually, when we were filling our beds. So shoveling dirt out on the plant out date, and we had unstuffed cabbage rolls, that's the other picture there, which was absolutely delicious, and I think people were clamoring to get Amanda's recipe for that. Thank you very much, Amanda, another committee member. And we also had some rare flowers that we planted out from our collection of passion flowers. We planted out all kinds of crops last year, including radish, kale, peas, peppers, tomatoes, lots of different herbs. You can see that in the top picture there. There's just a small harvest that we had on one of the dates. And you can learn about soil, plants, cooking, nutrition, health, cultures, lots of stuff while being at the garden, and also during our many workshops that we do.
All right, so we did 2 workshops this past year. On the top left there, we did a composting workshop with Christine Gillard, who is the environmental educator at the Munn Botanical Garden, And on the right-hand side there, again, we had the lovely Amanda doing the nutrition workshop called Taste the Garden, and that was really, really, really tasty.
So we were also active at the garden for a number of family-friendly community events, which I'm sure that a lot of you may have heard of or been involved with. We organized 3 pumpkin pickup locations across CBS for the pumpkin stroll. We put over 400 lit pumpkins that were all donated by the community across all of CBS, and we put that all across the garden and down the pathways and things so that people could have a stroll around. We think roughly 200 people showed up. At one point we did lose count. And we had help from the local scouts to help break apart the pumpkins in the compost afterwards to, help create soil for this year. We also had rock painting where we made some garden labels and we hid rocks around. We did yoga in the garden as well, which was really helpful. It rained, but we did it anyway. And gardens are great for the community. They're excellent tools that we can use, and it encourages physical activity for all ages. It provides a space for cross-generational mentoring, brings people of all ages together, and of course, most importantly, arguably, it provides fresh, healthy, local food for basically free. So anyone who needs it can come up and get involved and eat.
And kind of the flagship event from last year would be our Harvest Festival. So it was held on October the 6th, and we're estimating about 500 people showed up throughout the event. We had hot food and beverages, music and games, face painting, and a living scarecrow, as you can see there on the bottom photo, stood up on the bales of hay. Overall, the Garden Committee sees it as a great success.
So outside of the garden, we've also been active in the community, and it was such an honor to have been recognized as the best non-commercial float in this year's Christmas parade. And you can see the float in the top left with our Christmas vegetable cartoons hanging from the trees, and on the right you can see Julia, one of our committee members, and Sarah with our little mascot Dorian, Sarah's son. He's in a lot of pictures. We had a booth promoting gardening and healthy eating at the CBS Health and Wellness Fair this year, and some of you may be here because we set up an information table at this year's pancake breakfast at Winterfest, and we handed out over 400 seed packs to people. So even if you're not involved in the garden, we can get you growing somehow. So CBS loves gardening and growing.
And they love supporting it as well. So we'd like to really have a shout out to 2 grants, or I should say the grants that we were given. We were given 2 grants by the Healthy Community Living Fund in 2019 and 2020, and as well a grant from Trades NL in 2020. We've also received a lot of in-kind support from the town of Conception Bay South we'd like to recognize. They provided the land that we were able to build Gateway Garden on, and the landscaping help, as well as many other tasks, almost too many to number or to name, including building the boxes up at Gateway and providing tables and chairs for a lot of our events. They were also able to get the green team involved in the Gateway Garden this year, and over a week they did a lot of different garden maintenance, including planting over 200 tree saplings. So there's a lot of trench digging, we're much appreciative. And as well as businesses in the community. We mentioned the sign earlier, so you can see a little highlight of the sponsors from the community. So we'd like to give a shout out to Ledru's, who supplied us with the shed, Bishop's Crane, who worked with them to help deliver it, Concept Nutrition, and Amanda is our resident nutritional Jedi Master. Thank you. CBS Design and Print, who were involved in the sign creation. Kent, up next to the Gateway Garden, supplied a lot of support for the gardening tools and different things that we needed. Good to Grow NL, which is a local nursery down in Topsail and hydroponic shop, provided a lot of small plants that we were able to transplant out, and seeds. And the Farm, which is a local CSA provider and market. A local CSA provider and market farmer and plant whisperer, and our chair, certainly Trina. Thank you. Thank you. And in terms of community groups, we were able to work with the Girl Guides and the Scouts, as well as all the amazing garden members that we had show up at the garden last year. And at the original meeting, I'd like to give a shout out to Food First NL. So they were very instrumental in setting this project in and helping out. So if I could get a round of applause maybe for all of our supporters, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
So with that jumps us straight into what we planned for specifically Gateway 2020. So we plan on adding more beds, increasing our count, as you can see in the photo. We will have a photo. But we're going to increase the beds from 19 beds to 30 beds. We also have more exciting plans, including we're going to create a raspberry patch, and the beds that do exist, we're going to add low tunnel covers, which is just some plastic that can go over to add some season extension that will be available at no cost, optional. People can use them, and for the communal beds, we will probably use them to help extend the season in all those beds. And this year we will also be renting beds, so we will be adding leased beds at Gateway.
That was a really good image you guys missed then. But looked very similar to the previous image, just an overview, just with an expanded, more beds, really. So we're just filling that space up with beds for leased beds. So leased beds are for groups or individuals who are fully responsible for planting, growing, and harvesting their own garden beds. So the Code of Conduct and leased bed applications are out now and available here tonight. For anybody interested and anybody online, or if you know anybody, we'll have them at the town hall available, as well as you can get in contact with us via email or social media, and we can get you guys a copy of that. So we'll be offering an initial 15 beds at Gateway Garden to be leased. If more than 15 applications are received, we will be holding a draw on March the 27th. If you are successful in the draw, then we will have an orientation meeting on May the 24th, and then that will kind of get us started with showing you where the bed is and the outline, and that event will also have a workshop built around it about just kind of planning your garden and what our plans for the gardens are. So to lease a bed, you'll have to, there'll be a $20 yearly leasing fee, and for that you'll get your 3x7 raised bed and soil, and then access to the shed and tools, the watering cans and hoses and everything that I had mentioned earlier. And so just to give everybody a little example, we use square foot gardening a lot in our community garden at Gateway this past year, and all it means is kind of you break up the garden bed into 1x1 squares, and you think about what you can plant in a 1x1 square. So if you can picture, like I said, a 3x7 bed would give you 21 of those individual squares, and I don't know if we have any rabbits here in the audience, but you can certainly grow over 300 carrots in a year. Radish, again, over 300 and onions. And the green onions and radish, you can often do multiple harvests in a year. 189 beets, 189 garlic. We were debating whether or not we'd rent a bed and just put our garlic up there, and just to free up maybe a little bit more room. We can always have a little bit more room on our own backyard sometimes.
We can always have a little more garlic.
Yeah, you never have too much garlic, certainly. 84 celery or parsley, or spinach, or 21 big lettuce heads, big foot-by-foot lettuce heads. They're nice and crispy. And I've also heard of people using them for cut flowers. So instead of cutting your own flowers in your beds at your house, you can have a bed, put your bulbs in your bed, and then cut your flowers, put them on your table, and then still have your flower beds outside. Or cut your flowers and bring them to the hospital, or any older assistive living houses. And then seed projects. So a lot of times you need distance between plants for collecting viable seeds and true seeds. So you can have different seed projects happening, or just overall experiments. Like, we got to have some fun here, certainly. Or a combination of all of the above, you bet. Yeah. Me again. Oh my God. So, as you can see, this is the schedule of events. So, Thursday, February 27th, public consultation. You all made it. Good job. Now, don't miss any more. So, we have March coming up. We have a seed saving workshop, and healthy soil workshop. We have an orientation, as I mentioned, for the leased bed successful applicants on the 24th. Beneficial bugs and pest insects. We're hoping to do a celebration of bounty with CBS as part of the soiree, another Taste the Garden, and a harvest festival, a second annual harvest festival. Towards the end, we'll be doing a winterize your garden and garlic plant out for the communal aspect of it. And then our very successful pumpkin stroll will be held on November 1st. So it sounds like a really good jam-packed summer, and hopefully you don't miss any, because it's probably going to be a lot of learning, a lot of friendships, a lot of community growing. All right, what's next here? Oh, sorry. And another form of engagement leading to the neighborhood gardens was, as I mentioned earlier, the public interest survey. There you go.
So, the survey asked generally where you were located and how active you'd like to be in the garden. So far, as of when we made this presentation, we had 104 responses, and so here are some of the results. You want to go to the next one?
Oh, perfect. Already. So, as we said, 104, and the demographics so far, the age group, so you can see that there's a bit of a spike there around 35 to 44, so probably a little bit of a target audience of like a young family perhaps, and also as low as 18 and as high as 75 or above. So, as we were saying earlier, it's really a cross-generational initiative here. You got it there?
Yep.
All right, and then this one here is the results for how you would like to be involved in the community garden. So there was a lot of different, as I said, aspects to being involved. But some of the main takeaways is there is significant interest in more workshops and communal gardening, which is great news. Which is great news for Gateway. As you can see there, it's a 74 for the attending of workshops, and communal gardening is we had 60 people respond and say that they would like that. And there was also interest in the leased beds at Gateway. So it's all good stuff.
And this slide is generally where our demographic is located. So there was an option on the survey to select multiple communities. So this allows room for flexibility so people can participate in areas they frequent and may not necessarily immediately live in that area. One option that came to mind was someone who maybe drops their kid off at their grandparents' house, you know, and so maybe they want a community garden in that area. So it may not necessarily be the area they live in, but it's the area they would spend a lot of time in and therefore want to be responsible for a garden in that area. I'm sure there's lots of different reasons why people would select those things: proximity, ease of access, etc. But yeah, so the majority of interest was concentrated in the communities of Kelligrews and Chamberlains. And so a part of the reason for us asking these questions was just to inform our direction moving forward, to find out who we need to ask about putting a garden in their area. And so, yep. Okay, so the highest percentage of interest in having a role as well, which is someone who would want to take on maybe canvassing their neighbors and discussing with everyone about, you know, how many households in their neighborhood want to have a green space that they can work in together. So the highest percentage of interest in having a role doing that is in Topsail and Kelligrews, followed by Foxtrap and then Chamberlains. So this helps us locate individuals. So people who responded to it also gave us some contact information so that, and I hope that some of you are here tonight, so that we can sort of discuss as a community as a whole that, you know, we have access to the funds, like Mark said, we have the grants and things like that, and you know, we want a community garden near our house, and I'm sure there are lots of other people out there. So this will help us connect with all of each other and figure out where is the next step to put something like that. And so, yeah, if any of you are here tonight, please have a chat with us after the presentation. And if you're not able to be here tonight and you're watching on Facebook Live, feel free to get in touch with us through whatever method is best for you. Our email, social media, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, whatever works. And so, what is a neighborhood garden, you may ask, seeing as how we have pretty much talked about it nonstop. They are beautiful gardens placed directly in the community to be used by the people living near or surrounding the garden. No two gardens are going to be the same. You're going to choose to grow whatever you want in that area, and whatever you grow is going to depend on the interest of you and your neighbors. And it's something that will bring the neighborhood together so you can all interact with each other and work together to really build a green space for kids to play in, or build a, you know, community greenhouse or anything that you want. It's totally up to you.
So, neighborhood gardens are often within walking or biking distance and can be used to grow many different plants, as we were saying. So they are great ways to introduce fresh local food to your table while learning how to grow and improve food security. They're often a space for neighbors to meet and to help create a sense of community.
Your garden can be any size at all. We could be located in an undeveloped space or become an addition to a current green space. Totally up to you and your neighbors, your neighborhood, your community. So it could look like a mixed fruit orchard. It could be just vegetable allotments. It could be a flower and herb garden. It could be a play space for kids with pea teepees and lots of fun things to do, or it could be a very adult space if there are no kids that live in the neighborhood, that just have each person's leased little bed that everybody takes care of individually and then shares resources to do that. It can be literally anything. Like anything that anyone wants, we will facilitate that happening. So,
the garden can be designed by your neighborhood, or if you need help, we can provide gardening assistance and layouts and different help from the gardening committee. We can help do any site landscaping, supply wood and build the garden beds, bring in soil and mulch, and purchase tools and more, really. We have a network of support to help and make the job easy between a lot of our social media and our help through the town and through the committee.
We have a large collection of seeds for members to use. One of our councilors, Christine Butler, is here tonight, and she donated so many seeds to us, so that's why we're able to give away so many. And so we have tons and tons that's available to use at Gateway or in a new garden, so we can help start people off. We can, through the expertise of the different people who are already involved, and maybe even people that already live in your neighborhood and want to be involved, we can recommend what plants do best here, what strains of plants do best here, how to grow them. We can help with soil testing. We can help figure out the soil amendments. There's absolutely no pressure to host workshops or any extra events, because that is all at Gateway. That's what that space was intended for. And you can have communal or leased beds in your garden. We also could support a couple of options to throw out there. We can support a fully accessible garden. That would be, you know, for anyone who lives in the community that needs an accessible space. So we could design a garden that's specifically for people with accessibility issues. We could design a community greenhouse that could be in your area if you wanted to. And we're totally open to partnerships with other community parks, schools, etc.
So, as you can see here, this is a tool that we've been using for a while now. It is the CBS interactive map. So you can find it off of the town's website. And on this tool, it'll show you town-owned land that may be available for community gardens. You might have seen this previously, but on this photo here, you can see a green highlighted area that was suggested to us during the survey as a possible addition to the garden, or sorry, it's a children's playground now, but it was just suggested that there might be extra room there to put a couple of beds. So on this map, you can kind of go in and look where community parks are, where, you know, unused town land is, and that was one way on how we were able to find Gateway. So these suggestions help us find areas that may be suitable to start an assessment process. So we'd have to look at an area and figure out if there are people around that area that are interested in gardening, if there's room to have garden beds, and the support of the community. So we will now go into a facilitated question and answer period with help from Trina. And we'd love to hear of any comments about the presentation and about possible garden locations or garden support and partnership ideas. Again, for anybody online, we'll have a Facebook moderator collecting your comments and questions, so don't be shy. And we'll try and stick around until 8 o'clock, so we have about 45 minutes to talk and see if we can find specific areas, maybe related to the map, that we could find neighbors maybe in the room or online that we can connect up together to create these community gardens. So, yeah, maybe... yeah. All right. All right.
Just a quick note for those following online. I just posted a link to the general welcome package that everyone in this room should have. So if you want to open a new tab so you don't lose this video feed, but you can now see the general welcome package, which has the schedule of events and the benefits of communal versus neighborhood gardens and that sort of thing. So just some more information for you, and we'll certainly keep in contact. Okay, so we're taking questions. Anyone in the room? We've got one. So some more details on how the communal beds work in the garden.
So basically how it works is that we have scheduled dates, so our days. Last year it was twice a week, Sunday afternoons and Wednesday evenings. Obviously as we got closer into the fall, we couldn't do Wednesday evenings anymore, so then eventually it was just Sunday afternoons. And anybody who was interested in helping in the garden got together and was there and assigned to a task or basically puttered around the garden to do things that needed to be done. Sometimes there were large projects that needed to be done, like the stone herb spiral. That was something that we did on a Sunday. And so yeah, everyone just participates in the work, and then if there's anything that needs to be harvested or is available to harvest at the end of the day, we harvest, we split it up between whoever wants anything, and bring it home. So most of the ones that I've been involved in prior to this, there have never been, we always get questions about people stealing food or whatever. It has never happened. It has never happened. And usually how it worked out last year was we had an abundance. So we were sending people home with more than they actually intended to go and take home at the end of the day. No, the communal gardening is just, like, if we do Sunday afternoons and Wednesday evenings again, you just show up. You just show up during those hours, and you get assigned to a task.
So the question there for anyone who couldn't hear online was if there was any way to sign up for communal gardens. But for that, it is just, we have a login book up at the garden as well. That's informal though. And as we get to know your faces, then that's sort of the sign up. It is just communal. If you want to bring your great nephew who's visiting in town, he can come and he can take some carrots that day. Yeah. That's okay.
And I guess that, there is, last year we had 19 beds that were all used communally, and there was a bit of a planting schedule. So, on what days you'd expect to harvest radish or lettuce, and, what we'd be looking to plant up then to replace that area in the garden, right? So there's always planting and seeding to do and harvesting to do as well, right? And, there's going to be a lot of watering, certainly, to do too.
At certain points in the summer, when things were starting to dry out too quickly, we would want volunteers to water not just on those communal days. So we'll all get there and do stuff together. But you might want to sign up and say Mondays, me and Mom will come up and we'll water it this evening, just so things don't dry out too quickly.
Yeah. So lots of different ways to get involved, and always reap in the harvest.
Yeah, and just keep in contact through email. I've seen Mary come over, so email. Our Facebook group is very active, and our Instagram.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Any online questions there?
We've been talking about this at a few of our meetings lately, and it's generated a lot of interest within our club. So we're certainly interested in helping get involved in some other way, and we certainly want to start a dialogue and get things started earlier in the spring. And we've got some ideas, and we're certainly really interested in pursuing this.
Well, as soon as we sort of break up from the formal sort of discussion here, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Yep.
As soon as we break up from this sort of formal discussion, we'll come over and have a chat, and
Okay.
I'm sure that any involvement is a good involvement. So
Okay.
that's awesome. Thank you so much for
Great,
coming.
thank you.
And you say there was an online question? No? Okay, sorry, I thought you did.
Yeah, we've had a lot of groups interested, and we really just need leaders to step up, because we have the support there for you, but we need champions.
Yes.
Just so the online people can hear you. They can't
Yeah,
see you.
just so everyone can hear the question.
I think it would be a really great idea to get the schools involved.
Yeah.
And thank you to Christy for asking me to come.
Yeah.
We actually, I take these off. We had a garden at Holy Spirit, and we actually had one of the lead teachers retire this year. So we're kind of not sure where things are going. Now, maybe I'm just not privy to all the information on that, but I did speak with a colleague today, and it was actually our challenging needs students who looked after the garden. And we have a bigger group this year, and so I'm not sure. So it'd be certainly worth some discussion. And again, we'd have to have all that approved through our administration and that kind of thing. But I just know how well received it was with those students. So it would be great to have some support in the absence now of our lead who has retired, kind of thing, right?
Is that the one across from our house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we would be those people.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Your community.
Yeah, and I know that one of our outreach initiatives was to work with existing possible gardens to really have a support role in like Sarah said, to be able to pick out certain plants, or to provide transplants for the garden, or
Right.
support, or whatever role
Yeah.
at whatever
And I
level is
think
needed.
too, even kind of getting maybe the Villanova students involved, so then as they come over, they can kind of be, leads as well, and maybe even helping some of our challenging needs students in addition, so, the teachers can kind of oversee, but the students can kind of take the lead with all that, right? Which would be really nice.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have, you're not the only school that's approached us. So Sarah Eddy, who's actually out doing the child minding, she's had a couple of schools approach her, and I think that she's putting together an information packet for schools that, you're unique in that you already have an established garden, you're looking for somebody to help with it, but just for anybody else, there are some schools that don't have an established garden that maybe want to. And so we're working on doing that, and working with any school that wants to get involved, basically any public space that wants to be involved. We're 100% down to help, and yeah, we can definitely help you with that, 100%.
I would just like to make a comment. Oh, thanks, Megan. I got a lot.
Yeah, but Facebook Live can hear you. Yeah.
The fact that we had a high school speak up. Hi, I know. I'm an alumni, Holy Spirit. But the fact that we had a high school speak up, we do have people from an elementary, putting them on a spot, Topsail Elementary. So you can see the neighborhoods are bigger than your actual residential, and it is your big connection to your school. So even if you can, look at your schools, your feeder systems, and have conversations about this, because it's something that will grow with them throughout their education, and it's giving them life skills that are currently not in that education system. Anyways, it's a big passion, about the schools and connecting. So the fact that Topsail Elementary, Holy Spirit, and Upper Gullies, there's a lot of schools in this region that can connect, and the CBS Garden are there with the expertise from farming and infrastructure and funding.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
please, anyone, reach out to us.
Please bombard us with requests. That is what we want.
Thank you. Really glad I came tonight. Fabulous presentation. And, the value of community gardens is, I don't think you can put a price tag on it. And it's timely, because coming off Snowmageddon, when we talk about food security, and we think about how much it takes, and that I was really, you learn something all the time. I was really amazed how many carrots you could grow in a 3x7 7 bin. So it's, I know it's a lot of tender loving care to get there, but it's not huge undertaking. But just and I know there's a lot of volunteers and a lot of sponsors that kicked in here. But just, can you put a monetary amount or a dollar figure amount on the current Gateway Garden, approximately how much it would have cost to put it there? And I'm only asking that question because some people will want to know, right?
Well, I know that the grants that we received are somewhere in like the $10,000 range. I'm unsure if we actually spent the full amount. I'm not 100% on that. Yeah. Okay. So we spent just shy of 8. Yes. Yeah. So if we and also we went to buy things, and then local businesses wouldn't let us buy things. so our accounting may be a little skewed for that. So a dollar amount on that, I guess. Yeah, I guess about $10,000 worth of infrastructure for sure. The food itself is a lower number, of course. But I mean, if you look at 5-pound bag of carrots, there's usually 10 or 12 carrots in there, and you said that it was what 300 carrots in a bed, so that's well over, and I don't remember. We grow enough carrots. I am actually the worst person to answer this, because we grow so much of our own food that people tell me what their grocery store costs, and I'm like, what? Because we preserve so much stuff now. So
I think my point being is, for a relatively low investment, monetary. I mean, the return on investment is outstanding.
And that's the thing, the investment in infrastructure was quite high, but it's not going anywhere. It's there now, you know what I mean? So that's not an investment that needs to be made every year. So then the investment in your seeds and things like that to start everything is quite low, and you get such a massive volume out of that.
No, and as Sarah pointed out with the schools here, fantastic learning opportunity, right? And Mark, I'll be talking to you after because I think I'm doing beets and carrots. I'm going to try this
There you
year.
go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And just something just come to me then. I know when we were originally pricing up the actual beds, so the wood for the beds and the soil, I think was about $100 for the box, and it was a couple $100 for the loads of soil, but for each bed, definitely under $50. So $200, you could build a 7x3 bed and be growing vegetables in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's important to keep in mind that Gateway is a very large space. So when we're talking about neighborhood gardens, you're only talking about beds. You can leave the lawn there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we
If it's already an existing green space, then there's no landscaping. There's no,
So question up here?
I do. Do you have like beds that you would use for food bank for donations to that?
So that's something that I feel really, really strongly about. We donate a lot of our excess food from home to the food bank, and we ran very briefly the CBS farmers market, and all of the proceeds from that went to the food bank as well. So I would totally be happy to donate any excess, and I'm sure everyone who's involved communally would be happy to donate any excess, or something that I have wanted to do for a long time, I think I've literally been talking about it for 6 years, is having a couple of beds donated specifically to the food bank. My only caveat for that is I would like to talk to the food bank to discover what the families want specifically. I don't want to just grow food and give it to them and them not be able to distribute it or do anything with it, and it would just be a waste. So, but I mean, that's not a complicated caveat. You know what I mean? That's easy enough to go and talk to Faye and say, what are people looking for? We will grow it, So that's 100% something that I very much want to do, and I think that goes right across the board for a lot of people.
From the service clubs were interested in having a bed and donating the food. Right. So
Perfect. Yes, I forgot about that part. Thanks, Mary. Yeah.
I believe actually in the Holyrood Community Garden, there's maybe the Royal Canadian Legion have a bed, and they have it set up for the food bank. Yeah,
So like most of this stuff's grown in beds. Is there any thought to have like a greenhouse or anything? Or
We did talk about, sorry, I keep taking over. We did talk about putting a community greenhouse at Gateway, but it is so windy up there that I'm a little bit worried. I think we were all a little bit worried that it would the cost would either be prohibitive to make sure that it wouldn't get damaged in the wind, or we would have to just, or if it would just fall apart. So I think that if there's a space, or I keep saying I because I can only speak for myself, but I think that there's a demand. There could be a demand for that. Maybe that's something we could work with the schools for, and then they could start their own transplants, and maybe that's something else that we could do in places that aren't quite as windy. But Gateway, definitely not. Other places, open to the idea. Yeah.
We did briefly touch on it, but if you can picture like hula hoops over the raised beds themselves, you put plastic or remate over that, so it's not as big as a greenhouse, or maybe not as hot even, because often you have the ends open, but it does extend the season. And much easier to repair, lower cost to begin with, lower cost to repair.
Oh, we had an online question. How exciting.
So the online question came to me as a text message.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Modern
You
technology.
got connections.
The question was, is there a willingness to use the Gateway Garden space for other events? And i.e., this person's a bit late in the game, but wedding is the word she used.
Okay.
Like, would we let... So, I mean, I think we've had... Stephen, I'm one of the T-shirt people. We've had a lot of discussion about how we could use the Gateway space, not just as a garden, but really focusing on the community word and other events. And we've talked about turning the garden into as much a community outdoor classroom in a lot of ways. So I think the answer to that's yes, if someone wanted to get married. And
It's a public community space. Yeah.
we actually did. Yes, yeah.
Bouquet of radishes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, I mean, it's a discussion to have.
It's a public community space. It's town-owned land. It's public property. If someone wants to have their wedding there, go for it.
Absolutely. So there you go. Yes. No one's ordained on the committee, so we can't actually officiate the wedding. Not yet, anyway.
that sounds like a good idea, but to that point, you say, okay, do your wedding there. Two people decide they want to do the wedding there. They don't tell each other. They both show up at the same day. So I think you need to talk to the town about figuring out some way to book and the whole thing. Because once it becomes popular, if it becomes popular,
Okay.
then you have,
That's a fair
battling
point.
brides. I don't know.
That's a fair point. So I think we need to hire a booking manager, is what you're saying.
Aside from planning, aside from hiring wedding planners, any other questions for now, or shall we break into more informal discussion? Oh, we got one more. Have we ever considered switching up any of the areas and start growing hydroponically, or new areas for hydroponics?
I think that if it was a neighborhood garden and the neighborhood that was something that they wanted, I don't see why we wouldn't allow that. You know what I mean? I don't see why we wouldn't help that in some way. We're not going to do anything like that at Gateway because it would require a structure, and the Gateway's very windy, and the structures that are already there take a little bit of a beating. But yeah, if a neighborhood found a town-owned space that was appropriate to put a project on, and that's what they wanted to do, and it was community food, I don't see why not. Yep.
You do not need to know a darn thing about gardening.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you don't even need to be able to, and you don't even need to be physically involved. Like you said, if you're somebody in the community who has gardening knowledge and your knees give out and you can't do it anymore, come and just tell us. Say that is a weed. You know what I mean? Just come and assist in whatever way you are capable or feel comfortable in. That's all that we want. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yes. Mary runs rings around us. Thanks, Mary. Yeah.
Woo-woo.
I don't know. I don't know that. It was 6 weeks from the initial meeting, so I don't know when the funding came through, if it came through before the meeting or after, but I know that it was 6 weeks from the first public meeting that we had food in the ground.
Yeah, the first planting.
Yeah, the first planting date. Yeah. Yes.
Just to expand on what Mary's talking about, I live in Chamberlain's, close to so many schools, and I love the idea of the schools taking a lead on their own properties, but I also think there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of town-owned space around those schools where there could be a lot of intergenerational exchange. One thing we noticed with Gateway was that there was so many people coming out of the woodwork who used to farm when they were children, like within the region, and there was so much to learn, from all ages, and there were so many, I think there is a real beauty in that intergenerational exchange, and I love the idea of after school, so many kids are looking for something to be at, and to be able to meander over to the garden and help water, but that it's not just school kids. So I just think that is, I know as a resident in that particular area, that is what, that's where my eyes are set, but I just think it's an important concept to entertain and develop. It's not really a question, more of a comment, but just something to keep in mind in collaboration with the school kids.
Yeah. So I think now we'll just sort of split up and, have some more tea, and we'll have some more tarts and things like that. We'll end the Facebook Live broadcast, and that way we can get to talk to all those different people that were really interested in getting involved.
If anyone hasn't yet, there is a sign-up sheet, there is a raffle, and we've also been putting stickers on the map where your actual house is so that we can get an idea of clusters. Oh, we're going to pull the raffle now. Anyone want to put in their name before we pull it? Hurry, hurry. No one's running. And there is free magazines, free books, free seeds.